everyone. My name is Paulina Fain. I am in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I am a flute player, president of the non-profit organization Tango Sin Fin, and also director of the book collection Método de Tango, and also director of Tango for Musicians educational program. For me, it's a pleasure to be here for you to talk about the Astor Piazzolla music, how to play the music of Piazzolla, and to discover some of the important keys that we as a musician need to know when we are going to play a Piazzolla work. Yes? So let's start. Great. So I prepare a presentation for you so I can show you some of the most important aspects on tango music. So first of all, we need to understand that tango is a popular music, and as any of the popular music in the world, there are a lot of things that are not written in the paper, then in the music score, and so we need to understand which are the most important rules that we need to understand when we read a music sheet. Then this is the most important thing. We need to identify when we are talking about a rhythmic part, a rhythmic melody or a marking model, or if we are in the middle of an expressive phrase. So let's go on to this. When we have tango music, we need to consider that rhythm and expressive manner has to be played totally different. So we have different rules for each of these two parts of a word, let's say. Then we can see a small graphic where we can imagine the marking models of any tango ensemble or orchestra or duet or any ensemble where some musicians, some part of the score is making the rhythmic walking. Yes, are elements that are defining the tempo and has a rhythmic, that are defining the tempo and has rhythmic elements. And then on top we have a graphic of what can be an expressive melody that happen on top of that and is completely free, open on top of that marking melodies and rhythmic patterns. So we need to ask to ourselves, when we see the score, if are we part of a rhythmic section, then we need to ask ourselves if we are playing, are we playing a time marking model or are we playing a rhythmic melody? Yes, and on the other hand, if there is an expressive melody, we need to have in mind if we are playing a solo or if we are singing with others. Like what could happen with a tango orchestra with all the strings singing together a melody, for example. So let's see more deeply these tools. For the rhythmic tools, yes, we have two important elements. One is the rhythmic harmonic bass. Yes, this is the support of the orchestra. When we say orchestra, we can say any ensemble. So we have the rhythmic marking models that we will see now, marcato, syncopations, and other rhythms, and then we have rhythmic melodies. These two elements are the ones who keep the rhythm of the music, determine the tempo, the changes of tempo, and the internal rhythmic. On the other hand, we have the expressive tools that we have a very important tool. It's called fraseo. It means phrasing. It's the way of saying a melody. That in tango, when we are talking about expressive melodies, using the phrasing, we do not play the rhythm as is written. We make modifications like this. This can be one possibility, or many others. We will see it in detail later. But we should use phrasing when we see a melody that is expressive. We follow with the rhythmic word. Then we have the tango articulations. We could have a staccato. We have long accent, yes, and short accent. But anyway, we have accents that are very important for tango, and I will let you know which is the most important rule in a minute. Then we have the marking models. For example, here we have marcatos. This would be a marcato. Here we have a marcato in 2. And what is very important for the tango music is that tempo should be quite stable, yes? And although sometimes the tempo is quite flexible, we should have in mind that tango music had in the whole history a strong relationship with the dance of tango. And that's why it's the tempo, it doesn't work in a way that we could have really rubatos as we have in classical music. So we will listen to examples to understand what is this, some of these characteristics about the tempo. And then here in the right side, we have something more about expressive melodies. So to see the level of freedom that we have for our phrasing, we need to consider if we are in a solo, if we are in a soli, or if we are in a tutti. Yes. So as much people, more people we have singing the melody, less freedom we would have. Yes. So the solo is the place where we really could express ourselves and change many things, as we will see. And so, important to have in mind that the rhythm and the expression in parallel works. So the people who is holding the rhythmic marking models, the rhythmic walking of the ensemble should be keeping the rhythm, and the person who is singing on top of that expressive melodies should be really free in relationship with the arrivals to the beats 1 and 3. We will see that later. So let's go to rhythmic tools. As we said, something very important that is present also in the music of Astor Piazzolla. Maybe, I don't know if some of you know, but Astor Piazzolla started playing in the orchestra of Aníbal Troilo and also was arranger of Aníbal Troilo Orchestra. After some years, he decided to start his own style, but all the rules that we are seeing now that can be applied in any of the styles of tango music are also the same that should be applied for playing Piazzolla music. So we have marcatos, marcato in 4. Look here what happened with the articulation. It's important to say that this slur that is written here, it's usually not written in the scores because it's an internal code of tango composers and arrangers that the bass line when we are making a marcato in 4 should be always played legato, although it's not written. Yes. And also it can be usual that these staccatos, for example, for the marcato en dos, can also not be found in a music score. In some scores of Piazzolla also, the notation is not this detailed. Yes, but it's important to recognize and know the most important marking models. So we have here the marcatos, marcato in 4, marcato in 2, marcato inverted marcato in 2, and shumba. Many things that we will go through today are part of the book, The Piano in Tango. It's a collection of books that I already mentioned, that I am the director, and I also wrote the flute book. And it was the work of many years with some of great musicians and teachers. And so we built together this methodology because until these times we only had oral transmission. So with this methodology we tried to put together academic notation with explanation, so any musician in the world could learn. Yes, so I am saying this because, for example, for the articulation on the piano, it's very important that the technique we use several techniques like the free fall, the throw stroke swing, the roll, the pressure touch. Yes, and in rhythmic melodies, we will use we use free fall and pressure touches. So we will be seeing this in the next examples. So here you can see a very common example of marcato. This kind of rhythm are also all the time present in the Astor Piazzolla music. Look, the slur we have here on the bottom stuff. This usually is not written on the scores, but you can see when I play the music that the left hand of the piano player should play legato, and at the same time the right hand is making these very short and staccatos with accents. Let's listen to it. So let's see this, but in a video. Here you can see it better. So let's see this with a closer look, yes, to see the left hand. Great, so amazing, right? To see how in tango music and in Piazzolla music you should really train to have two different articulation in your both hands. Great, so let's go to syncopations. We have anticipated syncopation, a tierra, this means that the accent is in the downbeat, and successive syncopations. These marking models are also possible to find in Astor Piazzolla music. Let's listen to a syncopation. In this case, it's anticipated. Very good. I think that it's important to pay attention to the difference of the volume between the accent notes and the ones that are not accented, right? And also important to notice that these kind of notations in the right hand, if you pay attention, the duration of the notes, it's really a little less of what is written. We will see this now, we will see this later. Very good. Then we have other rhythms like pesante in cuatro, pesante in two, half notes and chorale, bordoneos, the famous 3-3-2 from Piazzolla, and umpa umpa. So let's go to the rhythmic melodies. Yes, we will come back to all this on the Piazzolla music. When we have the rhythmic melodies, we can find some styles like the orchestra of Osvaldo Pugliese and Carlos Di Sarli, which usually emphasize the beats 1 and 3rd, and these styles use the short accent. Yes, let's listen to this melody with short accent. Very good. It's important to notice the difference of volume that we are hearing between the accent note and the one who has a staccato. Please pay attention again. Yes, this difference, really big difference, is very important in tango music. So when we have the long accent, this is the most typical accent used in the Astor Piazzolla styles, but also in the orchestra of Aníbal Troilo. This kind of long accents, it works really well for the style that have marking models with bass lines in 4. Yes, not with accent in 1 and 3rd as we saw before. So let's listen this small part of the Carissimo. Yes, so you can see how an slur starts after the accent. So we get here how to play the accent notes, the accent sounds. Yes, for the tango rhythmic melodies, we need to follow these rules in all the styles. The accent sound is to be played with far more dynamic intensity than the other sounds. Yes, the sounds following on from the accent are to be played more piano. The accent's inertia is toward the tierra, the downbeat, while the remaining sounds up to the next accent are left bouncing in the air. Yes, let's imagine really like a ball that is falling and then is falling and then is going up. So this is the idea, jump, jump. So we have a strong accent in the accent note, and then we should play pianissimo exactly after that note, and all the rest should be pianissimo until the next accent comes. We can see this example in this part of the melody of Le Grand Tango. I am going to use some examples of Le Grand Tango because we have recorded with my husband, Ezequiel Mantega, in the piano and me on the flute. Years ago, we recorded this version of Piazzolla that is originally for cello and piano. We made an adaptation for alto flute and piano. And then you can see here how these long accents should be really emphasize the accent note and with a strong change of dynamic for the next notes. Now, okay. Yes, so you could hear there, which is the difference we need to apply on accent notes. But now let's talk about this. What happened with this effect when we have long notes? What we call long notes, anything more than an eighth. Yes, so we have a quarter note and a dotted quarter note and a half note. So this is not written. Yes, it's not written. But in tango music, when you see a long note with a marcato accent, the note gets an effect and it gets shortened. So it's important to understand that when we see a half note, maybe it's really a quarter note, a little more than a quarter note, but you shouldn't be pressing and holding the sound for the half note. This is also very important for instrumental like the flute that didn't have a normal decay in the way of playing. But we should be really aware that the long notes are always shorter. So let's listen to this here and pay attention in the long notes. Yes, all the long notes like quarter note, quarter dotted notes, and these half notes, listen, pay attention to that. Okay, yes, and now again, I would like to show you this. We are always having Le Grand Tango as an example. Look here, for example, we have the left hand who has quarter notes. This is a marking model that is called polyrhythm, but the bass line works like a marcato in quattro bass. So we need to think about this note like quite of a legato. And then the right hand have long notes. So we have dotted quarter notes, but listen to this. Very good. So for training this, of course, in the Piano in Tango book, we have many exercises, but you can also work with the parts you are preparing about Piazzolla music. But it's very important to work in the independence of both hands. Yes, so train your left hand to play legato, while your right hand make staccatos or short accents or long accents. Yes, and different variations of these patterns. You can create your own exercises, but it's very important to have the independence in the articulation in both hands. And remember that the slurs in the bass line, in the bass, are never written. So we go to a very famous rhythm. It's called 3-3-2 in Spanish, 3-3-2. This rhythm can be found in all the time in the music of Astor Piazzolla. I cut several examples here to show you. Here we have, in the melody, we have these accents, 3-3-2. Yes, we are talking about eighth notes. So we have groups of 3-3-2. Para, pa, para, pa, para, para, pa, para, pa, para. Yeah, and here we have also one accent in the same moment of the right hand, and in the end also. Here we have a 3-3-2 without subdivision. Yes, and here we have a 3-3-2 but legato, and here we have a 3-3-2 in the left hand. When in the meantime we have an expressive melody on the right hand. So we are having extremely difference between the two hands. So the 3-3-2 is present in all the music of Astor Piazzolla, and this is the history about this. In Argentine music, we have the milonga campera. It's milonga from the countryside. This is a very old style that was played by Carlos Gardel and payadores from the countryside in Argentina. And this kind of milonga campera has a very common pattern on the bass line of the guitar that was doing this rhythm. Tan, 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 with a very typical 7/6 here as a movement, but with this rhythm that if you see it when we pass it to a 4x4 bar, it's very clear to see that it's the same rhythm but with a double, right? But we can also listen the same places for the accents. What is the invention that Piazzolla did? What he made was to take this rhythm, para pa para pa para, this rhythm 3-3-2, but he invented that in the bottom of that, we have the sensation of having 4 quarter notes. So it's not just pam, 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 but he say, what about if we transform this rhythm into a pa 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 pa. So having these two rhythms together in the body of the musicians or present in the orchestra was really a very defining rhythm for his music that he uses a lot. So we need to analyze a bit this rhythm to understand the richness that this rhythm has. When we have a 3-3-2 melody, we can't avoid feeling in our body that there is a 4x4 bass in the bottom of that. So I will invite you to do some short exercises that I will show you now, but try to clap the pulse, yes, and try to read on top the top system, yes. So 3-4, pad, 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 pad. So you can see that the accent first and third have a coincidence with the bass, but not the second. So this syncopation that we have in the middle of this rhythm is very important, because if we don't have the feeling of the 4 bass notes, it's very usual that the musicians start playing para pa para pa para para pa para pa para, and it looks like they are running and rushing and falling from a mountain. So it's very important to hold back the tempo with the syncopation that we have in the middle. Yes, so para pa para pa para para pa para pa para. Yes, with this kind of consciousness about the bass line, we get the real swing of this music. Yes, of this rhythm. Sorry. So let's try to do first these short exercises where we do pure 3-3-2 and then we make subdivisions. Let's see the first example. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pa, 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 pa. Okay, if this is okay, let's go to the second one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pa, 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 pa. Yes, and let's go to the third one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pa, 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 pa. Yes, can you feel how the power of the accent is that moment is the one that we highlight the most. Pa 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 pa. I am not saying pa 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 pa. I am not emphasizing all the notes as I would play if I would be playing Mozart. As I am playing tango music, I need to hide all the notes and say it really pianissimo and only emphasize the accent moments. Yes? Once again, 3, 4. Pa 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 pa. Yes? And so we can do now the last system. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pa 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 pa. Yes, I hope you like it and you practice. Very good. So let's see how this works. Yes, we are going to see here the bass line with the 3-3-2, but we are having a different rhythm on top. So we are starting to see how this is mixed. Okay, very good. We are seeing more and more examples. Now, this is a more complex 3-3-2. You can see here the accents on the top, right? This is 3-3-2, and the bass is also in 3-3-2. But in the middle, we are having more subdivisions. Very good. So we are seeing different examples of this 3-3-2 from Piazzolla. Now let's see how this works when he's playing like more like a bordoneo. Very good. So many possibilities for this 3-3-2, 3-3-2. And now, here, for example, we can see this is a tango from Piazzolla called Fracanapa. How he started to use this 3-3-2, but now he changed the place for this 3-3-2, and sometimes it's not always 3-3-2, but sometimes it's 3-3 and 3 and 3 and 3, etc. So this is called ternary displacements. And then this is really, really used in tango music and in Piazzolla music a lot. He started to play games with this kind of changing the place of the accent, moving the most important accent from the beat number 1 and number 3. So he started to make a lot of changes in these aspects. For this, I also prepare some short exercises about ternary displacements that are very important for the tango musicians and the pianist who wants to play Piazzolla music. So, first of all, I will propose you to read this rhythm and first of all, marking the pulse in 8 notes. Yes, so we are going to play in 8 notes the pulse, and let's try to say with our voice this rhythm, always emphasizing the accent notes. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Pa 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 pa. Good. We can do it again, and you can try it in the piano. Try to imitate what you are doing with your voice. The difference of the volume between the accent note and the next one should be really important. Usually we say that the volume of the next note after the accent usually is at least the 50% less of the volume of the first note. Yes, it doesn't matter which is the general dynamic. If we are in a piano section and we are making accents, then our accent note will be piano, but the other note should be the 50% of this one. So let's do it one again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pop, 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 pop. Good. Now we are going to make the exercise B. So we will make the pulse in quarter notes. Yes? 3, 4. Pop, 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 pop. Okay. Some more. This is very fun to do. So while we are making the pulse in 8 notes, we are going to read this rhythm and say all the numbers. Yes, so we are going to read the numbers, but just making louder the numbers that has an accent. And then this is going to be like this. 8 notes, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and now only say the accent which has the accents. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 1, 4. 3, 2, 1, 1, 4. Okay, and you can try the same with the pulse in quarter notes. Very good. So now you can play in the piano this rhythm, this ternary displacement, because it's very fun to do. Now we will go to the 3-3-2 as a time marking model. We can see here how the 3-3-2 can be without subdivision or with subdivision, and we have also a simplified notation that we can find in some score. Let's listen to it. Okay, can you hear the difference of the dynamic? This is one of the most important rules for Piazzolla music. Listen that the second and third eighth notes is really like the 20 or 30% of the volume of the accent note. Yes, let's listen to it again. So we can see that there is a lot of hiding notes. Yes, it's a lot about hiding and also about the longness of the bass. Yes, there is not a boom, boom. So it's a note that is really shorter than is written. So we arrive to the expressive tools. This is a tool that I love. The expressive tool is the phrasing. When we need to express a melody, to say a melody that is legato, that is expressive, we should use the fraseo. This fraseo is the act of saying, yes, the melody, and we need to change usually the rhythm to be free to express. So it's very usual that we can find notation in Piazzolla music and in all tango music for the expressive melodies with a very simple rhythm written. Usually is 8 notes, quarter notes. When we see in Piazzolla sequences of melodies that are repeated with the same rhythm several times, we are clearly talking about an expressive melody. So let's listen how a melody that is written really straight in the rhythm, it's supposed to be played with phrasing. Yes, very good. So the phrasing acts as a way of emphasizing our arrival at the downbeats on the bar. Usually it's the arrival to the first beat and to the third beat that are the most important columns on the walking of the tango music, and also are very important moments for the walking of the dancers. So the first and third beat are arrival points, and we can see how this melody is like going to a magnet. Da-da-da-da-da. So the melody is falling in a way to the target place where the melody wants to go. So for this basic phrasing, we use several changes. We can do many changes with the melody, but something very usual is for 8 notes, we could have the closed phrasing with this kind of rhythm, and open phrasing that usually is all with triplets. So we can use this for changing the melodies that we see that are supposed to be expressive. But then, in the tango history, after some years, the singers and the musicians start to use extended phrasing. This is when you are playing a solo. This is very usual in Astor Piazzolla soloist. All the members of his group usually use a lot the extended phrasing. That is, that in the opposition of what we saw in the basic phrasing, the notes that are expected to find in the beats number 1 and 3 are not there. But because of the phrasing, the phrase is completely free. So you use these sounds, these notes, but the longness of every note is really free to be extended. So let's listen to one example. Here is in the top the written melody, and in the bottom the melody I record. Yes, so you can see how the piano is holding the marking model, yes, is holding the beat, and the melody on top is completely free from that walking. Let's listen to it again, and please pay attention and mark with your hand the walking of the piano, and realize how the melody has been moved to different places in a really freely way. Okay, very good. Now I want to show you this same tool, that is the phrasing, in a Astor Piazzolla piece, Café 1930, from the history of tango for flute and piano, that we recorded some years ago, some versions for flute and piano. So pay attention to the melody. You see this melody is clearly expressive because we have the slurs here. Yes, but this gives us the key to understand that we need to change this. It's not expected that we play this as is written. We need to make a solo of it. So we need to make ornaments, and we need to use the extended phrasing. Okay, so it's very clear to understand that when we have a melody so simple as this, in Piazzolla music, we are not expected to play that. That is very important. So, let's see what Piazzolla does when he has a melody like this. So when as a musician we have a chance like this, we need to create a solo in our melody. If we have 4 measures or 8 or 20, it's expected that we create a solo. And so there is a huge difference between the written and what we are going to play. So let's take Piazzolla as an example. So this is a transcription of what Piazzolla has played in the Vienna concert. Yes, a very, very famous recording from Piazzolla Quintet. And at the end of the piece, there is a bandoneon solo. So for the really famous melody of Adios Nonino, is this melody that we have in the top system, is written like this. Yes, in any score that you find Adios Nonino, the expressive melody is written like this. So let's see what Piazzolla did when he played this melody. Pay attention to the phrasing, yes, and to the ornamentation, which note he added. Have in mind that the rhythm that we wrote in this second staff, it's not the phrasing, because it's almost impossible to write that. We never write the phrasing, but we put the notes trying to put the notes in the same place where original notes are, so you can really see the differences. And please follow all this solo, because it's amazing to see and to understand what can you do with a very simple melody. Okay, amazing, right? It's really amazing. I will come back to the last page. Amazing to see all what can be done for a very, very simple melody as the one that we can read in the top system. Yes, so there is really a lot to discover and to create around tango music. So, well, I am ending this presentation. I just wanted to let you know that Tango Sin Fin is the organization that I direct. We work from Buenos Aires, and we care a lot about teaching and about helping musicians all around the world who likes to play tango music. So I invite you to download for free. We have we publish many albums of arrangements that are all absolutely legal and free to download in PDF in our website that you can see here, tangosinfin.org.r. So please enter there, and you can find a lot of materials in PDF from great musicians to download and to have arrangements and compositions for playing tango music. Yes, and then about the Piano in Tango book, if you would like to get the book or any of the other books that we publish, you can also find it in our website. And I also talked to Dino and thank him for inviting me to this very special piano celebration week. And we decided to give you as a gift a special discount for all the musicians that are joining this amazing week, and so you can enter up to 1st of April, and with this code that we include here, the Tango Sin Fin people in the e-shop, you can buy all the books with a special discount. So for us, it would be a pleasure to invite you to become more and more aware of all the great tools that tango music has. And if you like to listen all the albums from my duo with my husband, with Ezequiel Mantega, you can see here the address, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions or anything that you might need. I would be happy to help. So thank you so much, Dino, for inviting me to this special masterclass. And well, I hope that we can meet all in person after this such a strange time. And I wish you the best with tango at home, playing, enjoying to perform and create music that can makes you feel happy. I think that is very, very important. And I think tango is an incredible tool for our own research and our own development as a musician, for the way in which this music invites us to look farther from what is written on the scores. And Piazzolla has an absolutely free heart, and has a way of writing his music with a lot of passion but compromise. So I think that I hope that this workshop could invite you to look deeper into tango and Argentine music. Okay, thank you so much. Bye bye.